My wife compared me to her ex, one too many times, so I let her have him, packed peacefully, and left without even locking the door behind me. I'm a 32-year-old man, and for the longest time, I thought I'd won the lottery when I met Lisa. She was magnetic, the kind of woman who walked into a room and somehow made the air feel lighter. We met at a mutual friend's engagement party, and I remember thinking, she laughs like she's never been hurt before. It turns out I was wrong about that, too. From the start, Lisa was open about her past. She told me about her ex, Ethan, the one who taught her what love shouldn't be. I admired that honesty. I thought it meant she was healing, moving forward. Whenever she mentioned him, I'd nod, pretending it didn't sting to hear another man's name laced with nostalgia. "You're different from him," she'd say sometimes, touching my hand. "You actually listen." Those words mattered more than they should have. I built our relationship around them, wanting to be everything he wasn't. When she compared the way I dressed to how Ethan used to, I laughed it off. When she said he was better at remembering anniversaries, I took it as a challenge to do better. Every comparison became a quiet competition I never agreed to play in. A year later, I asked her to marry me. She cried, not the polite social tears, real ones. And in that moment, I forgot every red flag, every uneasy feeling. I convinced myself that love meant accepting a person's history, even if that history kept whispering in your ear. Our wedding day felt like a scene out of a movie. Laughter, music, endless toasts. But somewhere in the middle of it all, I caught her staring at an old photo her friend showed on her phone. Ethan, smiling at some beach years ago. Her expression flickered for half a second. I pretended not to notice. That was my first mistake. It happened on a quiet Thursday night. One of those evenings where the world outside slows down just enough to make dinner feel intimate. I'd cooked her favorite meal, creamy pasta with garlic bread, and set the table with candles. We'd been married for about 6 months, still in that phase where you believe every small gesture matters. Lisa twirled the pasta around her fork and smiled faintly. "This is really good," she said. "Ethan used to make this too, but yours is creamier. She didn't mean harm, I know that." Her tone was casual, almost nostalgic, but something inside me tensed. I forced a laugh, pretending it didn't feel like she just invited another man to dinner with us. "Well," I said, "guess I should thank him for setting the standard." She chuckled, sipping her wine, completely unaware that my chest had gone tight. It wasn't the words themselves. It was the ease. The way she said his name like it belonged in the conversation, like it still belonged in her world. After that night, it became a pattern. Small, harmless comparisons at first. Ethan used to love this song. Ethan hated that movie. Ethan never liked spicy food. I told myself it didn't matter. Everyone has a past. Everyone reminisces. But each mention chipped away at something inside me. A quiet kind of dignity I didn't know I was losing until it was almost gone. One night, I asked, "Do you ever think maybe you talk about him too much?" She looked genuinely confused, like I'd accused her of something unthinkable. "He was a big part of my life," she said softly. "I can't just erase that. I didn't push it." I smiled and said, "Of course." But as she turned away, I realized something chilling. I wasn't her fresh start. I was her clean slate, the place she came to rewrite her memories, and I was already starting to fade beneath the ink. The comparisons started small, but like water seeping into cracks, they began eroding everything steady between us. I tried ignoring it, convinced myself that love was about patience, about letting time wash away old ghosts. But ghosts don't fade when you keep feeding them memories. It started during arguments. Simple disagreements over chores or bills would twist into something else entirely. "Ethan never used to get this defensive," she'd say. Her arms crossed, her tone clipped. The first time she said it, I froze. The second time, I started wondering if she even realized what she was doing. "Lisa," I said once, keeping my voice steady, "I'm not him. Stop comparing us." She sighed like I was being dramatic. "I'm not comparing," she said, eyes rolling. "I'm just saying how different things used to be." Different. That word echoed for hours after she went to bed. I lay awake beside her, staring at the ceiling, listening to her soft breathing, wondering if she ever did the same when she was with him. Days turned into weeks, and her affection shifted. Less eye contact, shorter hugs, more time on her phone, smiling faintly at things she never showed me. I started doubting myself. Maybe I was too defensive. Maybe I wasn't as easy to love as Ethan supposedly was. I began overcompensating, taking her out more, planning surprises, cooking her favorite meals. But every gesture felt like a desperate attempt to compete with a man I'd never met and could never outshine. One night, as I cleaned up after dinner, I caught her smiling at a message on her phone. She quickly locked the screen and said, "Just work stuff." I didn't ask questions, but for the first time, I noticed the crack. Not just between us, but inside me. And it was starting to widen. It was supposed to be a fun night, one of those grown-up dinner parties where couples laugh over wine and pretend their lives are perfect. Our friends, Mark and Jenna, had invited a small group over. The place smelled like roasted garlic and red wine, soft jazz playing in the background. Lisa wore a red dress that turned heads. She looked stunning and distant. The evening started off light. We joked, shared stories, toasted to love and good friends. Then, somewhere between dessert and after-dinner drinks, it happened. Jenna complimented me on the pasta I'd made the week before, saying she'd seen Lisa's photo of it online. Lisa laughed and said, "Yeah, he tries. Ethan used to make the same dish all the time. I guess I just have a type." The table went silent. Even the music seemed to fade. My throat went dry and I forced a smile while everyone awkwardly sipped their wine. Mark tried to change the subject, but I could feel their glances, the kind of pity people hide behind polite laughter. On the drive home, I didn't say a word. Neither did she. The air between us was so heavy it felt like static. As soon as we stepped inside, she sighed dramatically. "You're mad again, aren't you?" "Mad?" I said quietly. "You embarrassed me in front of everyone." "Oh, come on," she snapped. "It was a joke. You're too sensitive sometimes." Her words hit harder than I expected. Too sensitive? The same phrase she'd used when I'd told her how those comparisons made me feel. She didn't see the wound. She only saw the inconvenience of my pain. That night, I lay awake on the couch while she slept in our bed, her phone lighting up every few minutes. For the first time, I didn't want to know who was texting her. I just wanted silence. The next morning, sunlight spilled through the blinds like nothing had happened. Lisa walked into the kitchen wearing one of my shirts, her hair messy, her tone soft, the kind of morning-after charm she used to win every argument. "I didn't mean to upset you last night," she said, reaching for her coffee. "You know I joke when I'm nervous." I stared at her for a moment. "Nervous about what? Being with me?" She froze mid-sip, then forced a laugh. "You're twisting my words again. You always take things so personally." That line, "so personally," burned more than her comment the night before. I wanted to yell, to make her understand that her jokes were slowly breaking me, but instead I just nodded and said, "Okay," because arguing with her always ended the same way. I was overreacting, and she was misunderstood. Later that day, I noticed her scrolling through her gallery. Old photos, vacations, nights out, smiling faces. But the ones that made her smile most weren't of us. They were of him. Her thumb lingered over one picture longer than it should have. Ethan, laughing in a car, sunlight hitting his face. "Why do you still have those?" I asked quietly. She jumped, locking her phone. "They're just old memories." "You really need to chill, babe." The dismissiveness stung worse than any insult could. That night, while she showered, I sat on the edge of the bed staring at her phone on the nightstand. For the first time, I thought about unlocking it. But I didn't, because deep down, I already knew what I'd find. I didn't need proof. The way she looked at me, or rather through me, was evidence enough. And for the first time since our wedding, I realized something terrifying. Love wasn't dying slowly. It was already gone. It happened on a Sunday evening, the kind of quiet day where you almost start believing things are normal again. Lisa was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone while some crime show murmured in the background. I was half asleep, head tilted back, pretending to watch. That's when her phone buzzed, lighting up the screen just long enough for me to catch it. I miss how we used to talk like this. The name above it hit like a punch. Ethan. I didn't move at first. My brain scrambled to justify it. Maybe an old message, maybe something else entirely, but then another notification appeared, a reply she'd just sent. You always knew how to make me laugh. My stomach turned. She noticed me looking and instinctively snatched the phone, her face flashing panic before twisting into composure. It's not what you think, she said quickly. He just messaged me out of nowhere. I was being polite. Polite? I asked, voice trembling. By flirting with him? Her jaw clenched. It wasn't flirting. You're reading into things again. You always do this. There it was. The gaslight flicker I'd come to recognize. That calm, confident tone that made me question my own reality. But this time, it didn't work. I could still see the messages burned into my memory, the way her eyes had lit up when the screen glowed. I'm not angry, I said quietly. I just get it now. Get what? She snapped. That I've been trying to compete with someone who never left. For the first time, she didn't have a quick response. Just silence. And in that silence, something inside me shifted. Not rage, not heartbreak, something colder. Clarity. That was the night I stopped being her husband, and started planning my exit. After that night, something inside me went quiet. I didn't yell, didn't accuse, didn't demand answers. I just stopped. Stopped trying to fix what she didn't even see as broken. Lisa seemed relieved at first. My silence meant no confrontation, no drama. She started humming again while making coffee as if nothing had happened. But beneath that calm surface I was already drifting away, piece by piece, thought by thought. I began noticing things I'd ignored before. The way her smile always brightened when her phone buzzed. How she'd lock her screen the second I entered the room. The sudden evening errands that didn't need explanations. I never asked where she was going. I didn't need to. I'd stopped caring about the answers. Instead, I started preparing. Quietly, methodically. I moved a few clothes to my office under the pretense of working late. I transferred files, changed my passwords, created distance in places she'd never notice until it was too late. At night, I lay next to her and listened to her breathing. Steady, peaceful, like she was dreaming of somewhere else. The woman I'd once wanted to protect more than myself now felt like a stranger lying inches away. One night, she reached for my hand in her sleep. For a moment, instinct kicked in. I wanted to hold it, but I didn't. I just stared at our fingers, close but not touching, and thought, this is what we've become. Two people pretending the bridge between them isn't already burned to ash. I didn't hate her. I didn't even wish for revenge. I just wanted peace, and peace was something she could never give me. So I began building it myself, in silence. It was late, maybe close to midnight, when I came home early from work. Lisa wasn't expecting me. The lights in the living room were dim, and her laptop sat open on the table. At first, I wasn't planning to look. I told myself I was done snooping, done playing detective in my own home, but then I saw it. Her smiling face frozen mid-laugh on the screen. And beside her, Ethan. They were at a cafe, sitting close, hands almost touching across the table. The timestamp was from 2 days ago. The caption in the message thread read, "Just coffee, like old times." I stared at the image until my vision blurred. My first reaction wasn't anger. It was a hollow stillness, like my body refused to process the betrayal because my heart had already accepted it long ago. When Lisa walked in, she froze too. "You weren't supposed to see that," she said quietly. "Supposed to?" My voice cracked. "You make it sound like scheduling an appointment." She started crying then, or maybe pretending to. It was nothing. Just closure. "You've been so distant lately, I just needed to talk to someone who understood me." I let out a bitter laugh. "Right. The man you compared me to for years." Her tears fell faster, but I didn't feel pity anymore. I just looked at her. The woman who'd once been my safe place now standing there like a stranger I couldn't trust with my name. "I think you've already made your choice," I said finally, closing the laptop. She reached for my arm, whispering, "Please don't do this." But I was already gone. Not physically, not yet. Just emotionally. That night, while she cried in the bedroom, I sat on the couch in silence, staring at the packed suitcase by the door. I didn't plan on staying much longer. The next morning, the world felt unnaturally still, the kind of quiet that comes right before a storm or right after one's over. I woke up before sunrise, packed what little I cared to keep, and moved slowly, deliberately. Every movement felt like a goodbye I didn't need to say out loud. Lisa was still asleep, tangled in the sheets, one arm draped over my side of the bed. Her phone glowed faintly on the nightstand, notifications lighting up her face in soft pulses. I stood there for a moment, just watching her. Not out of love anymore, but disbelief that this was how it ended. Not with a fight, not with screams, but with silence. I slipped off my wedding ring and placed it beside her phone. It made a faint clink against the wood, a sound so final it echoed in my chest. I wanted to leave a note at first, maybe explain myself. But then I realized there was nothing left to explain. She'd already read every reason in my eyes over the past few months. She just never cared to understand them. Before leaving, I walked through the apartment one last time. Every object had a memory. The couch where we first said, "I love you." The kitchen where she compared my cooking to Ethan's. The hallway where she'd kissed me after a fight and made me believe everything was okay. Each memory felt like a ghost brushing past me on my way out. At the door, I hesitated. Hand on the knob, heart strangely calm. Then I did something that surprised even me. I didn't lock it, not out of carelessness, out of closure. If she wanted to walk back to the past, to him, to whoever she thought she'd lost, she could. I wasn't guarding the door anymore. When I stepped outside, the cold air hit my face, sharp and freeing, and for the first time in years, I breathed without her name in my lungs. By the time Lisa realized I was gone, I was already 3 hours away, driving with no destination, just distance. My phone buzzed nonstop on the passenger seat. First confusion, then anger, then guilt-laced apologies. The notifications kept stacking like layers of desperation. "Where are you? We can fix this. You're overreacting again." I didn't respond to any of them. For the first time, silence felt like power. That night, I checked into a cheap roadside motel. Faded wallpaper, buzzing air conditioner, the smell of old carpet. I lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling the strangest sense of peace. Not happiness, not sadness, just nothing. It was the absence of chaos, the stillness of finally being free from emotional noise. Over the next few days, Lisa's messages shifted from anger to guilt to nostalgia. "Remember our honeymoon? You're still my best friend. Please just talk to me." I could almost hear the manipulation in every word, the same soft poison she used every time I'd tried to pull away before. But this time, it didn't work. Friends started calling, asking what happened. Some sounded shocked, others sympathetic. A few said, "Man, maybe you should give her another chance." I didn't argue. I just said, there's nothing left to save. Because it was true, love can survive arguments but not comparisons. Not when you're constantly made to feel like someone's second choice. Sitting alone in that motel, I realized something freeing. Revenge wasn't walking away angry. Revenge was walking away calm, leaving her with the echo of her own choices. So I turned my phone off, ordered takeout, and let the quiet wash over me. It wasn't the life I planned, but it was finally mine. It had been almost 3 weeks since I left when I got the call. The number wasn't familiar, but the voice on the other end was, "Hey, it's Ethan." For a second, I thought it was a prank. The sound of his name, the same one that had haunted my marriage, now echoing through my phone, calm and deliberate. I didn't say anything. I just listened. "I think we should talk," he said quietly. "About Lisa." We met at a small cafe off the highway. It felt almost poetic. Two ghosts from her story finally meeting in real life? When I walked in, he looked nervous, older than I'd imagined, like life hadn't been kind to him either. We shook hands, awkwardly polite. He started first. She told me you two were on a break, that things were basically over. His eyes flickered with guilt. I didn't know she was lying until she called me crying, saying you'd left. I laughed softly, not because it was funny, but because of how predictable it all was. You don't owe me an apology, I said. You can have her. He looked stunned. You're really just letting her go. I already did, I said. A long time ago. You just didn't know it yet. For a while, we just sat there, two men connected by the same mistake, loving a woman who couldn't let go of the past. But I wasn't angry anymore, just tired. When I stood to leave, he said quietly, You're handling this better than I ever could. I smiled, not out of pride, but peace. That's the difference, I said. You're still in it. I'm out, and with that I walked away. No bitterness, no hate, just a strange kind of closure that didn't need words. Months passed after that conversation, and for the first time in years, I felt like I was living for myself again. I moved to a smaller apartment. Nothing fancy, just quiet. The kind of quiet that doesn't suffocate you. I started running in the mornings, cooking for one, sleeping without checking if someone else was beside me. It's strange how peace feels uncomfortable at first, like your body doesn't know what to do with the absence of chaos. Lisa tried reaching out a few times. Long. Emails filled with nostalgia and what-ifs. I didn't respond. I'd spent years chasing closure from her, but I finally understood it wasn't something she could give. Closure isn't a conversation. It's a decision. One evening, while walking home from work, I passed by a jewelry store. In the window was a ring. Simple. Silver, almost identical to the one I'd left behind on her nightstand. For a moment I froze, staring at it under the soft light. The memory hit me like a wave. Her smile when I proposed, her tears, her promises. But this time, the image didn't hurt. It just existed. Like an old photograph you don't need to burn, because it no longer owns you. I smiled, genuinely, quietly, and kept walking. I don't know where Lisa is now, or if she ended up with Ethan again. I stopped caring the moment I realized she was never mine to begin with. She belonged to her past, and I belonged to my peace. Leaving without locking the door wasn't carelessness. It was symbolic. It meant I wasn't closing myself off. I wasn't running from pain. I was walking toward freedom. And for the first time, I finally understood something simple, yet powerful. Some doors don't need to be slammed shut. Sometimes the real victory is just walking away and never turning back.